We are committed to creating a safe and supportive space for our guests and listeners, and to provide information and tools that will help our listeners understand, manage, and overcome trauma. We understand that the healing journey can bring up challenging emotions. Therefore, we want to warn our audience that certain episodes may contain discussions or stories that could be triggering for some individuals. The content of the podcast is for educational and informative purposes only, and we encourage you to practice self-care and discretion while listening, and to reach out to a trusted support system or professional if you feel overwhelmed and need help on your healing journey.
Hello and welcome back to Healing and Growing Hand in Hand podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Tickle, and our guest today is Khrey Musni, and she is a certified life coach, a certified hypnotherapist, a Reiki master, and a certified EFT practitioner. And I'm so excited about our topics today. But first, I want to welcome you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. So excited and really, really open right now to be here.
Nice. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. So some of the topics that we were going to talk about, we were talking about before the recording started, was we're going to talk about emotional regulation, which is just all these topics are really big and really, really important in your healing journey. So we're going to talk about emotional regulation and how to kind of manage that.
Mm-hmm.
Energetically release emotional blockage. And I've actually done that before, and that's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one, like I said on our pre-recording, that this one I'm really, really, really excited about. And that's how you can overcome an autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
So why don't you start by telling us about yourself?
Thank you. So to get us started, it was really a space of contrast. So where I am right now, who I've become in the process of healing my autoimmune disease is completely different. And having to be diagnosed with autoimmune disease is like a big aha moment and a big question mark in my life.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was in a culture where emotions is completely taboo. We don't talk about it, and we don't really have this role model or a blueprint of how can you regulate your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of really you have to keep going, bypass that because it will be a sign of weakness.
Right.
So and we over glorify the hustle and bustle, and at the same time if you keep going even though you're struggling, it's like a sign of strength. That's basically how the idea of what does it look like as strength for me growing up. And when I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease, specifically Graves' disease, which is hyperthyroidism, my body is completely through the roof. Hypertension, agitated, mind is just consistently ruminating, so dysregulated. And I came to a space, why me? Why me? I'm a very sporty girl. I'm very active. I'm constantly I function in a state where I know is normal, which is just keep going and going. And I find strength in that, like I'm still functioning. Then how come I got sick like this?
Yeah.
Little did I know until I research through what autoimmune disease is. Mainly it's genetics, they say, because it's unknown known cause, and number one factor is stress. And as a kid, what is stress, right? We face everyday stress. So it's a multi-factor phenomenon. And this was a catalyst for me to dive deep into holistic modalities. And I was in nursing school. And 2017, when I finally gave up the idea of I'm still okay, I'm normal, even though I was diagnosed, it was like, I'm going to go through radiation therapy. And I don't know any other alternatives at that time because they're just giving me two options, either surgery or radiation therapy. What is the least like way for me to not feel invasive? And it was radiation therapy. So when I had that on 2017, it was the moment I had this like specific download because I was crying. I was like, I give up. Like I gave up questioning why me. And it was the moment where God just gave me this surrender. And I surrendered in that moment to just, okay, so I'll surrender to what? And I had this like aha moment. It's like to love.
Oh.
It was
Ooh.
so profound and
Mm.
simple, yet what does love means? And that was my quest. It was the quest for me to understand what unconditional love is, what
Mm.
self-love and self-healing is. So I had radiation therapy. My whole body is dysregulated. It's trying to acclimate what I have lost or what is happening. So the whole quest is to get normalized consistently with hormones. And my specialist said 2 years to get that regulated.
Wow.
But I was like, no, there's no way. There's no way.
I'm not spending 2 years.
Yeah, like there's no other way. And I learned as a nursing school to approach health holistically and like, let me test that
Yeah.
theory in my life right now. So that's where the quest of discovering physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual journey for me. First year was really gaining my physical strength. And that was the time I was
Mm.
studying energy. And one book that really stood out for me to open my mind to holistic modalities was the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Mm-hmm.
So the first part of my journey was to really learn meditation. And through meditation, I was able to understand and become aware of the awareness of how my body is actually functioning,
Mm-hmm.
how my body is dysregulated.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this space of awareness of radical acceptance. This is where I am right now. And I have to come to a space of what can I be in the process of loving myself? So instead of punishing why me, it
Yep.
turned out to be life is happening for me.
There you go.
So, yeah, so it was a big shift. And
Total.
through meditation, I was able to open spaces to different modalities, shamanic practices, to going deep into, oh, it's actually energy blockages. And I was aware of the seven chakras through the process of understanding my emotions. And the emotion that came to me was it's actually vulnerability.
Mm.
As I'm sharing this with you 11:11 right now on the clock is because
Ah.
I it was that part where oh that's where it all started. My throat chakra was so blocked for me to express my vulnerability,
Yep.
my authentic truth, and all of this emotion was repressed inside me and
Yep.
body keeps score. And that's where
Yep.
it was a big aha moment. Okay, what is this? So, can I understand more? I research the energy blockages. What are those? What are the emotional blockages? And I came to find out that all of the seven chakras are specifically connected to specific organs and body parts
Okay.
that helps you to increase your vitality. And there were
Ah.
this like different research about autoimmune disease. One specific doctor, Dr. Gabor Mate, have said this. Most of his clients who were diagnosed with autoimmune disease, their caretaker are mainly stressed. And
Yes.
one of the things that they receive is through their heart chakra. And that like creates a ripple effect through different body organs,
Mm-hmm.
manifests into a disease. And I was like, aha moment. And I prayed and I just started, okay, I'm going to keep going. First year, I was successfully came to from, I would say, in a level of 6 to 4 on my hormonal level. So the normal level is like zero point 0.2 to 4. And I was so grateful. It was
Mm-hmm.
really just trying to calm my body.
Yeah.
And that was where I discovered EFT.
Mm-hmm.
It was the emotional freedom technique where okay, all of these things are like the shadow, the repressed traumas, the
Mm-hmm.
repressed emotions. How can I articulate it? How can I process this in my journey? And then I tried EFT because it was so practical.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, I don't have a guide at that time yet. It was just really, oh, let me try this one out and see if it works for me. And so EFT is a big game changer. It was an instant release of emotional repression, such as fear. I was
Mm.
so afraid of the unknown because I don't know what's my body doing. Is it
Yeah.
going to be normal in the next few years? What am I doing? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this
Yeah.
wrong? EFT was so powerful that it helped me. Oh, I can actually shift my mind. I can actually shift my
Mm-hmm.
mindset just by tuning into my meridian points. And I'm piecing this, okay, what else can I do to really understand? And that's where I discovered, well, I've read The Secret 8 years ago, like the law of attraction. And here I am, like piecing things together, the universal laws of you attract what you are. You can recalibrate your emotional frequency. Your vibrational frequency is in alignment to who you are. All that such. And I went to workshop of Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, live because of that book, Ask and Is Given. It made me realize, aha moment, yeah, the emotions is actually the level or the frequency that we are tuning in. It's the map of our consciousness on how we vibrate energetically.
Yep.
And growing up, I have only identified, I think, specific emotions: anger, sadness, and joy. And Brene Brown have said this in her research of connection. The average human being can only identify three emotions: joy, sadness, and anger. And there's a
Wow.
wide range of emotions.
Right.
That's why people have this like discomfort of avoiding feeling, avoiding pain.
Yeah.
It's like an easy resort to just not be, because there's this fear.
And let me call out that fear, because I have I've said this on my podcast before, and I'll tell you what my fear is. If I start feeling those emotions, I'm going to lose control.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be
the
able to
part.
reel it back in. I'm going to lose control.
100%, 100%. I was so afraid because I'm out of control in my body. So I
Right.
came to realize, like, how can I live life when I'm completely out of control inside? So I went through this, I call it inner size, the inner work. Because we have exercise, right?
Yeah.
Physically,
You
we
exercise. I
have
like
inner size.
that.
So I went through that inner size consistently, and I studied fear in my mind.
Yeah.
I tried to understand what fear is. And I discovered that fear is a false evidence appearing
Very
real.
real.
It's that's from Gabriel Bernstein. So I was like, whew, okay. All of these things, right? As I peel off different inauthentic parts of me, every modality was just handed to me by the universe as how I am attracting, because I want to feel love. I want to feel joy again. I want to understand what that means, because I was on a different spectrum. And that's where I discovered the certification of EFT. I was able to really do that. And every time I have fear, I just tap into it from 10 to 0. It's miraculous, because whoa, I can easily tap and release that subconscious belief. Then I got to understand other different ways of understanding our subconscious beliefs, how our belief system reflects the way that we perceive reality.
Yep.
All of these things, I want to invite everyone that we attract what we are. We don't attract what we want, we attract what we are. And I was piecing things together and took inventory of my life. I was actually attracting and creating a reality that's based on how I was raised, the belief system that I
Right.
believed, that I perceived to be true. And then, so in that process, I was like, whoa, all of this knowledge that I have, I want to birth something. I want to share this to the world. I want it to really, I just have this inkling. There's that feeling called, that intuition that's telling me, you have to tell this to people. Because I tried shamanic practice to just understand my ancestral wounds. I had this like idea, oh, I'm breaking generational pattern. All of this traumas, nobody in my family actually had the courage to even go deep into it. And I had that moment, whoa, I had all of these small traumas, big traumas that I didn't even realize that I was repressing. That's why my truth was so repressed. That's why my authentic self was so repressed. It was so difficult for me to show up in spaces just to be me without over compromising, without people pleasing.
Yep.
That really impeded the life force inside me.
Yep.
The way that I can flow life, the way that I can be. And so I was able to birth my podcast to just talk about my story. And it was just initially just to share to people. And there's this one lady, I didn't know she was tuning in. She's from Asia, and specifically messaged me, reached out to me. Thank you for sharing your story, because you made me stop thinking suicidal thoughts.
Oh, bless her heart. Oh.
Yeah, that was the
Wow.
moment where I realized, Lisa, that the truth the chakra, the healing can heal someone through your voice. You may never know who's listening. You may never know who is
Exactly.
actually receiving. With this platform of yours, you may never know.
Yeah.
And a lot of women who are going through autoimmune disease reach out to me too.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep discovering things. I'm gonna keep sharing the breakthroughs. And until I Reiki found me. So the Reiki found me, I think that was 2019 or 2020. Yeah, 2020, where this Reiki master came up to me and wanted to be part of my podcast. And we talked about it. I was like, okay, this is the last piece to all of the modalities that I've been learning in the past 3 or 4 years. And she invited me, and this made so much sense because through Reiki, one thing about Reiki, it's all about love. It's all love. And you go through it in your own divine way. And you go through a journey that is in alignment to who you are. And when I said yes, my life completely changed. I was able to just regulate from feeling anxious to being at ease to being able to choose where I can recalibrate. And 4 years later, 3 years later, I became a Reiki master. And then throughout that process, I've also been studying about hypnotherapy because
Goodness.
as I share this with everyone, just so you guys know, I'm a generator in human design, and my profile is 1-3, and one is actually an investigator. So I love learning new
Oh,
things.
yeah.
So that's why I'm so deep into this new things that would help you to elevate
Yeah.
your conscious. I was completely obsessed in personal development. But all of these things, if I would put it that way, everything is interconnected. Your
Mm-hmm.
mind, your body, your
Yeah.
emotions, your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So when one part of us is neglected, or when one part of us is extreme, your whole entire alignment is completely whack.
Yeah.
So that's where we wanted to bring in the connection versus the dissociation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's so easy to just avoid, to feel the void.
Yeah.
That's where I arrive from this space of bringing in the gap in between of your 5D consciousness and your 3D consciousness to connect deeply to that oneness with yourself. What does that peace look like? What is that trusting yourself fully again from the chaos that
Yeah.
you're used to functioning, or
Yes.
from the space that you're completely out of control?
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. I know it's a full story, but to summarize it all, I feel like it's a journey. And
It
I'm
is.
always saying I'm ever constant evolving being, and I'm here to share how it has been impactful. So thank you for listening to all of that.
That's a lot. And and I'll tell you, it's so common for those of us that have survived some sort of trauma, whether it's
Hmm.
little t or big T,
Hmm.
that later on in life when we start, working on our healing journey, working on
Yeah.
our healing steps, that we look for different modalities that work for
Yes.
us, and then we apply them to our lives, and then we go and pay it forward,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we make beauty from ashes, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what we're doing. And so many of my guests have done that, where they, and I've connected with so many amazing people, and this is what they do. And
Mm.
so I love that you have all these different modalities that worked for you,
Mm.
and that you brought them into your life, and now you're forward, you're paying it
Yeah.
forward. So this is going to be a really weird question,
Mm.
and I've wanted to ask an EFT practitioner this, and
Mm.
I've been embarrassed to ask it because it's going to sound really weird. I can't stand it though when anybody taps on me. So that's some
Mm.
kind of trigger. And I have tried to figure out why the heck that bugs me. But I
Mm.
actually had someone try to do EFT on me.
I
I don't know if
see.
she's really a practitioner. I can't talk, but it just drove me crazy. What
I
is that?
see. That is very interesting.
Isn't it?
Be- uh-huh. Because how I guide my clients, they do it themselves with me. We do it together. So
Hmm.
for someone to tap you and you have this sense of, is it a trigger? Is it somehow like just a feeling of icky energy? What's coming up for you in your
It feels like
body?
a trigger. It makes me mad. It bugs
Oh,
me. I don't like it. I feel like I just want to push him away. So there's something, and I'm trying to dial into what that is, as to why it's so, it's like if a little kid comes up to you and starts tapping you, it's a trigger for me. Because I've
that
wanted to
is,
use this modality because I know that it works, but
yeah.
it just drives me crazy. So
No,
there's
that's very
something.
valid to feel. So there's something to discover there and really get curious. Where is it coming from? Have you ever tried doing it on your own just with your practitioner?
No.
Okay.
And
So
I've never
that,
worked with a
mhm,
professional practitioner. So this
I
person
see.
that did, I would say that I don't know if I would necessarily call her a professional practitioner on it. It was just
I
something that she
see.
picked up on.
I see. Yeah. So most of my clients, I guide them to do it with me and intuitively, like, there's what we call counterference or transference. So there's like an energetic release
Oh.
as someone is tapping through themselves. And you can see just the body language, how things are shifting. And then all of a sudden, there's like a dissonance, how the left and right brain actually perceives the reality into oh, this actually doesn't make sense. So you're counterintuitively seeing your client, how it shifts from their body. You can see the shoulders going down as they
Mm-hmm.
tap through the belief that they're trying to release. You can see also their eyeballs would just have this like an aha moment when you have an aha moment, right? As
Yeah.
you tap through it. So it's like a big release and a breakthrough in their consciousness. Because as you speak, what's happening is that you're activating all of your senses. You're tapping, so you're tapping the center, so you're feeling your senses. You're activating your clairs, right? And then as you hear the word, which, let's say for example, fear of not being good enough, so
Mm-hmm.
as you hear it, so you're activating your grounding senses, and then it becomes like an alchemy, like you alchemize that energy and you tap the meridian points. It helps you to actually release what specific body part or center that's actually being lead towards that belief. And then there's one client of mine sometimes when we did like an EFT regarding fear of not being good enough, her inner child showed up in her vision. It's very miraculous. It's
Yeah.
it's it's about it's really in alignment to clients' connection with ourselves. And you just tap into different centers or meridian points.
Mm-hmm.
And when you release something, there's part of you that you're discovering that wants to be held or wants to be seen.
So it kind of
And the
takes the mask
emotional,
off.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the emotional release is an energetic release. So my client, when she saw her inner child, and she started crying.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one part here. So let's say the chin is actually connected to the shame. And then sometimes when you tap into your upper lip, this is connected to the rejection. So all of this, yes. So as you tap, I can sense like my clients that, okay, let's stay there, keep going as you tap through it. So intuitively, I can sense their energy as we go through the process. So I don't know how some other practitioners do it, but for me, I combine the science. So I see how my client's body reaction and their,
Right.
their shift of their eyeballs, their sights, and then their breathing patterns. So I become aware, focus, and quality attention towards their receptivity as they tap through that belief. And I allow them, like, okay, stay there, repeat it again. And then you can see the tone of the voice. And then it shifts to like calm. And then afterwards, we scale it from 0 to 10. And then from 10, which is the most disturbing part of that thought,
Yeah.
it becomes to 0. So it
Yeah.
takes like rounds. So there's also different aspects because one belief can be, it's like a cobweb of different aspects of beliefs. So
Right. They're
that,
intertwined.
and yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I would invite you to, if you're going to try this one out, you can do this with the practitioner.
Yeah.
If that is something that's uncomfortable for you, for some, I've never done it to my clients because that's the part of it. I want to be neutral because
Yeah.
some clients are sensitive to touch, even with
Well,
Reiki.
yeah. Yeah. And let me tell you the circumstances because this might explain because it does bug me to be tapped. It does. That
Uh-huh.
is a that is a that does bug me. But when I think about that scenario when that happened, you'll understand why I had the visceral reaction that I did.
Yeah.
So this is when my second husband, he was dying of cancer. He was literally dying of cancer.
I'm so sorry.
And I needed a break from caretaking for just an evening. And I just wanted to go to dinner with a friend. I just needed a break. I needed a, right. And so, his friend and his friend's wife came over to kind of stay with him while I went to dinner. And, I mean, he obviously wasn't dying at the moment, but it was coming. And, I don't want people thinking I abandoned my husband. And when I got home, you know, until you've been a caretaker for someone that's dying, you just have no idea how consuming it can be, because you don't get a break. Even when I went to dinner, it's not like I got really a break, because he was constantly on my mind and I was constantly worried about him. So I walk in the door, so you can imagine, I'm kind of giving you an idea of where my mindset was at, and I was exhausted. I hadn't been sleeping for weeks. And the guy's wife is a little pushy. And I was in the kitchen and I was just kind of sharing something, and she just like reached over. She's like, "Oh, well, you need to do this." And she started just like tapping on me. So I wasn't in a good place to begin with.
Okay.
And then she overstepped her bounds, right? And she tapped me. She started tapping me, and I was like, I had never heard of this. I had no idea what it was. And she starts tapping me. I'm like, what are you doing? And so I didn't have a good experience, obviously, right? And so that was over 10 years ago when that happened.
Yeah.
And it really hit me wrong. But since I figured out, you know, what EFT is and all the benefits to it, I've been hesitant to try it again because of that experience. And it's, I'm really glad I finally opened up my mouth and said this, because I'm walking it out right in front of you, and I'm understanding a lot of why I had that reaction that I did, and why I haven't stepped into it again. I think you're right. I think I need to find someone, like you say, that I can work with that can help me with that, because what I do know, the modality that I did do that really did help me was EMDR. And that really helped me tap into my little girl, which I don't know if that's normal, but I absolutely tapped into my little girl. And really, she had a voice. She got a voice by the time we were done. You know? So anyway, so I just felt like I needed to say that, you know, but that probably explains a lot. Now, because when I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm thinking, you know, share the story of probably why it bugged me so much.
No, I hear you. That sounds very valid, because at that time you're in the space to not really think. And I think her intention was there, but the whole energy in there is for you to just be. And I think the body in itself just wanted to not be touched.
No.
Just be still, not be dug deep, and absolutely valid to react that way. And that impression to the modality was anchored inside you subconsciously.
Yep.
And that experience, the emotion, right? The emotion that you felt, that was anchored inside you subconsciously. So absolutely valid why you're hesitant and resistant to do it again. So it made so much sense now. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did, because it helped me too.
Yeah.
You know, so it kind of opens up the door, like, okay, why don't you try it? Why don't you try it? It's, you know, because sometimes you make a decision, and this is a really great example, right? You just make a decision at that moment, and then you just stick with it, and you don't think it through, right? And that's exactly what I did. I didn't have a great experience with it, and I wasn't in a good place, and I didn't have a good experience, and I didn't understand it, and I had my boundaries crossed. You know, but I didn't take it any further. I didn't, like I did what I just did now, was talk it out, and you're right. It left a bad taste in my mouth for sure. But I'm definitely open to it now that I'm understand why.
Yeah. I just want to share how so important it is to see that awareness with a space of compassion, because at that time, that's the only way that you know how to cope up with it, right? To like shut down. It wasn't even the EFT. I think what I'm hearing is, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, is the boundaries that was crossed by the person who's like, I don't want to be touched right now. I just want to have
Yeah.
fun. So I think it was just associated to the modality itself because it was part of that collective experience.
Right.
So having to share this, it most likely help you to detangle, right? A little bit
Yes.
of the belief in there of what you've
Exactly.
experienced. So
Exactly.
so good. You see the truth here is it's just like we're just by talking about
Yes.
the experience, it
Yeah.
releases that energetic part of you that felt like, oh, there's a reason why I'm hesitant. And that
Yeah.
is the block right there. If we put it that way, that would register to
Yeah.
the ego, right? So that in itself, that's what I'm talking about. The truth, right? The truth is so powerful. And I'm excited how will be your experience for the next one because
Yeah.
this is opening it even more
Yeah,
to
absolutely. I mean, I've said so often that we need to tell our secrets out, and we need to speak them out in our shame, because
yeah,
when we do put things into words and put it out
yeah,
there, it loses its power over us.
100%.
And like what I just did just now in front of the audience is
I
I
know.
I got clarification. I got an understanding of it
Yeah,
and a mind shift.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Power.
So one thing I wanted to ask you more though about the energy. Well, there's two things. So I
Mm-hmm,
do want to talk about energetically releasing emotional blockage.
mm-hmm,
And then if you can give us if there's a little at home thing that maybe we can do with EFT,
mm-hmm,
doing our own tapping that, maybe
mm-hmm,
it's when you're feeling anxious or some little
mm-hmm,
simple
mm-hmm,
tool that you can give our audience that
mm-hmm.
that'll help them in a moment of crisis.
Yes. Okay, I would give two things because most of the time when we have crisis, we wanted to dissociate, right? We wanted to
Right.
disconnect. So this is where I challenge everyone. Instead of disconnecting, I wanted you to connect back to yourself, to practice present moment awareness. So how
Mm-hmm.
is by mind, right? By mind and then body.
Mm-hmm.
Super practical is really be aware of your breathing pattern. Are you breathing
Yes.
in
Are
this
you
moment?
breathing?
Yeah. Is it not like ask that question? Are you breathing? Because sometimes you're holding your breath and your
Yeah.
shoulders are crunched up. You don't even realize, oh, I've been withholding my breath for so
Yeah.
long because of the fight or flight mode.
Right.
So the brain, right? Like when we react to certain stress or crisis, what's being activated is our sympathetic nervous system. So it's the fight or flight mode. So instead of fighting, what if we bring it back to this parasympathetic, which is the neutral state? So how is by grounding yourself with your senses, breathing first, ABC, right? Airway, breathing, and circulation. So your airway, are you breathing in? And then notice how it feels. What does the air's texture, temperature, and just become aware of that. And then for the EFT, if someone's interested in doing this, let's
Mm-hmm.
say you're feeling, let's say, what's the most common thing? A fear of being judged. Let's say, for
Oh, yes.
example, even though I have fear or feelings of fear of being judged, I deeply and completely accept and love myself. Tap into this. Or let's say, for example, if you don't have to memorize this, like, I have fear of being judged. Just tap into that. I have fear of being judged. So
Is there
all of these meridian points.
are we supposed to be doing these particular areas?
Yes. So basically, this is what we call karate chop, right? Your non-dominant hand. So your
Okay.
non-dominant hand is tapping, and then the right one is the one that you're the karate chop. So even though I have fear of being judged, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So say that out loud with conviction. And then go through your crown chakra, say it again. Even though I have fear of being judged, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And then the negative belief, right? To counterintuitively break through it onto your middle or in between your brows or your third eye, I have fear of being judged or feelings of fear of being judged.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the corners of your brows, fears of being judged, 7 times tapping into it. Or if you are intuitive enough or feeling connected, tap as long as you can in these areas because that's where the North Star is. Corner
Ah.
of your eyes, yes. Corner of your eyes, say it again. Fear of being judged. And then under your eye, so there's like this kind of like bone there in between your
Mm-hmm.
pupil. Yeah, right. So say that again 7 times. And then notice how your body feels. Like you may yawn. That's a physical manifestation of release of
Mm-hmm.
energy. And then on your upper lip, fear of being judged. Fear of being judged. You might feel an energy on your lower back. Usually there's like a tingling sensation in your lower back in here. And then onto your chin, fear of being judged. You might feel like on your brain, subconscious, it's like, oh, I don't have fear of being judged. That's the sign that it's working. Because you're counterintuitively, oh my God, that's so stupid. Why am I fearing it? Right? So it's like your brain, the
So
monkey
true.
brain, is now like reanalyzing, rationalizing, bringing you back. And in the corner of your collarbone, so there's this like the end of the
The little
collarbone.
bones.
Yes, in the bottom of it, yeah. And then the heart space.
Ooh, yeah, the heart space.
Mm-hmm. And then don't forget to breathe as you do this because it's an energetic release.
Yeah.
And then 3 inches below your armpit.
Below the armpit?
Yes. And then afterwards, take a deep breath. Inhale deeply again. Exhale, letting it go. And then if you wanted to go deeper, scale it. How are you feeling from 0 to 10? I invite everyone when they're doing this because you want to be present, close your eyes. When you're
Yeah.
closing your eyes, you can sense all of that pulses, that breathing, and
You can
just
get more
tuning in.
focused
Yes.
and not get distracted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then do that. Sometimes I'm in an airplane. I would tap myself. Oh my gosh, this annoying person. Like this annoying person is. They look at me and like, oh, she looks like what's happening. Again, that is your superpower. Just being
Yeah.
quality, right? Attention is back to you. The whole process is to be aware inside of you, not to go outside of you.
Right.
And then there's another one that I called energy in motion exercises that I do and hold workshops with. So let's say play a music counterintuitively. Play a music that you feel like you want to express rage or anger. That you feel like when you play it out, you just want, and then dance into this, like really
Yep.
release that through movement.
Yep.
Because as you move, you see those athletes before they play, they do
Yeah.
this.
Yes.
That's them releasing the nerves,
Yes.
releasing all of these fears because all of this are coming out of your body.
Yes.
Energetically, right? We store all of this emotion in our body. So when you move, there is this like synergistic process of you allowing that energy to flow through you. Release and then breathe, and then all of a sudden, your body would crave for another type of music. Watch how your intuitive process will be like it's turned on because you release that emotion, that anger through the music. You just associated it. You were so into the energy.
Yes.
You just alchemize it through movement. And the next thing you know, okay, let me play a happy music and then just dance. Dance
Mhm.
happily. So that in itself, you're shape shifting, you're hosting the emotion. And then once you're done hosting the emotion, you played music, you went party with it, and then you evacuate or evade them, kick them out of your home, and ready to be at ease again, empty, empty to receive loving and joyful space.
Yes, and replacing that with the peace and the joy and
Mhm,
the love and the
mhm.
happiness and the peace, 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 peace. Yeah.
Yes, super practical, right? Because
Yeah.
most of the time, like really, we want to ask ourselves, what do you practice first thing in the morning? Do you
Yeah.
practice stress or do you practice peace?
Yeah.
The first thing I do in the morning is like, really, how can I be present with my body? I hug myself first thing when I wake up. And I say gratitude. I say, I'm so thankful to be alive again this morning.
Yes.
That's the first thing I say. So I would invite someone who's going through a crisis, like, what do you practice in that moment?
Exactly. Exactly. And I know that to be true. And I was sharing a story on an earlier podcast. And this really opened my eyes to just the importance of being grateful and having gratitude. And it was a story that I talked about. I worked in a really toxic environment, and it was going on for months, and it got to the point where it was getting really hard to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And this one particular morning, I was driving into work, and the whole
Mm-hmm.
entire way in my head and probably out of my mouth in the car, I complained. I complained about everything. And so, of course, by the time I pull into the parking garage, I'm pretty miserable. And that's at
Mm-hmm.
7 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I felt like God got a hold of me in the car when I parked
Mm-hmm.
and basically suggested nicely that I change it. And instead of doing all this complaining that I've done all the way into work for the
Mm-hmm.
last hour plus,
Yeah.
from here until you get into the office, you walk into the office, I want you to tell me everything you're thankful for.
Wow.
And I literally did, I'm glad no one was around because it was real early in the morning, but I
Yeah.
literally said it like under my breath as I was walking up to
Yeah.
and there was such a change in my day and my
Yeah.
attitude, how I felt inside, the energy.
Yes.
It was completely different. And I knew that to be true. But I
Yes.
needed that moment of spending, I probably the entire morning before I even got
Mm-hmm.
in the car. I woke up
Mm-hmm.
probably with, oh God, I got to go to work today. I don't want to go to work today.
Yeah.
Right. And then the whole time I'm getting ready for work, I'm thinking about what an awful day it's going to be and the people I have to deal with, and then all the way to work. So you could imagine the state of mind I was in by the time I pulled into that parking garage.
Mm.
But the difference between when I pulled into that parking garage and when I sat down at my desk and I had spent that time between the parking garage, and it was a little bit of a walk to my
Mm-hmm.
desk. And literally I didn't stop saying what I was thankful for. And it just started pouring out of me. It was such a shift. And I have held on to that. And I start my day also with being grateful. And I end it that way
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. I also want to add on to what you were doing in there. As you're walking, you're also releasing.
Yes.
The earth
True.
in itself is a powerful transmutator of negative frequencies.
Yes.
So that was really powerful. That's just like big testimony of recalibration. That you
Yes.
can absolutely shape shift your consciousness. You just have to decide what that
Right.
intention is. And you receive that download immediately. So
Yes. Yeah. And it's just, you get so caught up in it.
mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
needed something to grab my attention clearly because you
Yeah.
do. And we all do that. We're human, that we all get caught up in our
Yeah.
head, and I'm an overthinker.
Yeah.
But we get caught up in our head, and it's really easy to get, when you get into the habit of focusing on the negative,
Yeah.
it gets really easy to fall down into that trap. And then next
Yeah.
thing you know, that is how you're living your life. And everything that's happening to you is negative because that's what you're seeing. That's what you're drawing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah. Absolutely. I have this called Inner Being Journal that I created for everyone. And one of the practices that I actually guide people with this journal is to redirect your focus towards the energy of intention that you wanted to create in a
Right.
day. Let's say, for example, with what you've experienced today, the question would be, how do you want to feel today? How do you want to feel throughout the day? By focusing on the emotion itself that you wanted to manifest, that will be aligned to the inspired actions that is connected to that emotion,
Right.
because the emotion is the energy in motion, right?
Right.
It's the energy that you're focusing on that will move you through that alignment, that would give you specific way of showing up throughout your day.
Mm-hmm.
Say for example, gratitude that you said, it shape shifted your whole entire reality in just few minutes of
Yep.
walking. And even by staying at work in a space that is very challenging, you're still grounding yourself with intention of feeling that way. So the power of our emotion, it's not who we are, but it is a signal of how are we tuning into our satellite, right? Like we're walking satellite. Which
Right.
one are we tuning in, right? Are we tuning into love, or are we tuning into what? The low frequency, right? It's a practice. That's why it's a practice. It's like a constant devotion to practicing your sense of free will to choose again. And I
Yeah.
feel like most of us forget that we have that. And you did that. That's a perfect example of free will, and a
Mm-hmm.
perfect example of I can recalibrate my emotional state by choosing to be grateful instead of what? Complaining and thinking about
Complaining.
negative things. You
Complaining.
basically moved your satellite to different radar or frequency. You switch your radio station to gratitude instead of complaining, right? So now you're, I'm like in tune with gratitude. So that's what you did as a perfect example. And so I this journal that I call Inner Being. It really guides you through challenging your thoughts and coming into your emotion that is so powerful to guide you energetically to manifest that reality
Yeah.
based on the frequency that you're vibrating.
Mm-hmm. You know what's so important about this whole thing is it's empowering. Sharing all this, that we're not just, we don't have to live with just all the stuff that the trauma and abuse did to
Yeah.
us, and that we're just victims to it and we're helpless and hopeless and powerless.
Yeah.
But what I have found by all these different modalities and implementing them in my life is how empowering it is, and that I can now manage my trauma and the effects of the trauma and the childhood abuse
Yes.
instead of it managing me, and feeling it's very frustrating to feel powerless and hopeless and feel
Mm-hmm.
like there's nothing I can do, that this, because the problem is, and I've talked about it on the podcast too, is that we get into these cycles and we get into these patterns, right?
Yeah.
And we can even see that we're in this pattern. We just don't know how to get out. And it's really, it just, it's fearful, and it's frustrating. And,
Mm-hmm.
but once you learn the tools and the tricks that you can work through this and get past it, and not just get past it, but you can thrive as a result of
Mm-hmm.
it. I keep saying it's not the way you started, it's the way you end. And we have, what's beautiful about probably the last 15-20 years is we're learning so much about trauma, and we're learning how we can heal it. And we're learning how we can not be victims anymore, but we can be survivors and thrivers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so true. That's so true. Personally experienced it by repressing my emotion. I physically manifested it into a disease. I
Right.
call it dis-ease. You're not at ease.
Right.
So the nervous system itself is a physical manifestation that your body really keeps score. So
Yeah.
when your nervous system is dysregulated and you have been used to functioning from a dysregulated state, that's a call for you to really reflect on, when was the last time I felt really at ease and at
Mm-hmm.
peace? That's a really big question right there, because most of the time we're so used to functioning from an anxious or
Yeah.
hyper functioning state that we forget, oh, my body's craving for peace, until it would lead you to burnout, and it will
Yeah.
lead you to most likely finding ways to have that dopamine instant
Right.
gratification that would lead you to what, addiction to specific coping mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
that instead of aligning you back, it's actually even more disrupting your peace
Right.
in the long
Right.
run. So you expressing this is like, we have so many modalities.
Mm-hmm.
It would really come to a space of, are you fully aware where you are?
Right.
Are you acknowledging your emotions? And are you fully accepting
Yeah.
that
Those
you
are,
are
yes.
so worthy? I call that AAA.
I like that.
Like,
Wait. Let me write that down. That's really good because it's true. So it's,
mhm.
say those again.
Awareness. Are you fully aware of what you are going through?
Mm-hmm.
Acknowledgement. Do you acknowledge your emotions, or are you avoiding them?
Mm-hmm.
Acceptance. Are you still in denial that you are so worthy of change?
Yeah.
Or still think that, no, I'm okay, right? Because some people think we're okay, but the truth is, it's a facade of strength.
We put on that mask.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's
Mm-hmm.
good. We're good. I'm good.
We're good. We're good. I'm okay. I'm okay. But inside, it's probably crippling. And it's
Yeah.
crying out loud. The body is crying out loud. Hey, please, can you ask for a hug today? We're so afraid to even ask those little things.
And you're so right that if we don't manage this trauma and learn to manage it and get it out of our system and out of our body, it will take a toll. Because I know for me, I didn't get autoimmune disease, but instead what
Mm-hmm.
I have had is I've had a really damaged back, shoulders. I've had so many surgeries, and so much of it I know for a fact is a few things. One is carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I really
Mm.
did. I really did. I carried everybody's weight on me.
Mm.
But the worst part, so I'm carrying my stuff and I'm carrying everybody else's stuff on my shoulders.
Mm.
But just carrying that weight and not, oh, that's what it was. The other part is, suck it up, buttercup, just keep going. Just keep going,
Yeah.
just keep going. You got to keep, and I was so, because I was in survival mode. So I was so focused on everything else that I didn't take the time to take care of myself. And I've always been very active and exercised, but imagine going and lifting weights with that mindset And I'm so tensed up all the time because that's the way I lived my life. I was just this ball of tense. And I'm going and I'm working out. And well, it hurts. Well, too bad. Keep going. And that is what I did to myself for many years. And as a result, I've done a lot of damage to myself. I've had a lot of surgeries. And it's, one part of me has this shame of, oh, you've had so many surgeries. But I got to give myself a lot of grace. And I only did surgeries I absolutely had to, because maybe I wouldn't walk anymore, But one way or another, unresolved trauma is going to show up in your body, and it is going to damage your body.
Yes. There's this book called Heal. No, absolutely. I hear you, because I think what I'm hearing from you is that you compensated or overcompensated your body's needs, thinking that if I give out more, I am receiving.
Correct.
And that's very archetype of us beings, who's you're so giving, and that's where you receive mostly feelings of value, or the love. And I totally resonate with that, because some part of who we are, that was our perception of how we can receive love,
right,
at young age,
right. That it worked when we were little, and we brought it into our adult life.
Yes. So, and there's this book called Heal Your Body by Louise Hay. I don't know if you've heard about it. And she mapped down every body part, the body pain, the anxious feelings, and then she would put the affirmation to counterintuitively heal that part of you that was unconsciously telling you to not be okay with it.
Right.
So she herself healed her cancer through healing holistically by affirmation, by changing her mindset, by really tuning into her spiritual essence, and by addressing the repressed emotions and traumas that she had gone through growing up. And that book is so powerful that I pieced it out. And there's another book by Dr. Gabor Mate. It's called Normal is the Myth.
Yes.
And he explained, right? Like, he explained, yeah, so good. Like,
so good.
He explained all of those trauma specifically that was connected now to Louise Hay's like holistic ways of seeing the body, where it stores all of the pain. So with the advanced Reiki that I learned, our shoulders usually carry all of the burdens. When you're feeling tensed here, like feeling like all that neck pain,
two shoulders, neck
yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, like, oh my God, it's so tense. It's most likely the energy stored in there, all of the things, the unconscious burden that you're carrying is now stored here, because the body keeps score, right?
Right.
And then our knees, usually when you have like pain in there, that's usually the storage of fear of money or instability. Lower chakras, right? Our hips is the carrier of all of the fears, but usually it gets stored on our knees for money. And then the big fears, actually, where you feel all of the fears sometimes, it gets stored in your kidney. The kidney is a storage of fear. Ooh. Yes. And then anger, the body pain, like, right? Like the anger, it gets stored on your liver. So if you notice, right, people who had, again, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. There's a research and journal that I would share with everyone who wants more research based on this. There is this client who had cancer, liver cirrhosis, he was able to understand that all of his resentments, built up resentments from his life, became an anger. And his way of coping through that anger is by numbing it through alcohol. And that led him to have some liver cirrhosis. And he was able to actually overcome it by understanding what are those part of him that the needs that hasn't been met. So Brene Brown have said this to her study in connection. Resentment is actually a place where we go to when our needs are not met. And you stack that up, it becomes an anger. So understanding that about his case, I realized that made so much sense why we seek, to numb this pain, because it's so uncomfortable. And our brain is wired to avoid pain.
Right.
So having to hear this from you, and I totally understand, and that's my throat chakra. As after I release and overcome it, I feel so at ease and authentic, and I have this inkling sense of self that there's no longer part of me that would say, "Oh, hold your truth,"
Yeah.
because people will get mad at you. No, I will speak my truth coming from a place of love instead of fear. And that's where I would like bring into people to take inventory. Where do you go when you're feeling upset? Where is the pattern, right? What is your pattern when you're feeling misaligned? I call that misaligned.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're not aligned to love. Where do you usually go? What do you usually do instead of being? What do you usually seek outside of you instead of going in?
Mm-hmm.
And that will help you to break through. I have been repressing my emotion. And
Yeah.
then that's where it opens you up to accept it.
Yeah. 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 Because awareness, and I say it so many times on my podcast, but we need self-awareness. That's the number one thing we need.
Yeah.
That's the number one tool we need to start our healing journey, because we do have a tendency to disassociate, right? And I didn't think I was that person. And then when I started studying it more, I'm like, no, I was that person. I did. I did have, it didn't look quite like it did in the textbooks,
Mm-hmm.
but it was clear that I was disassociating. But,
Mm-hmm.
it's, yeah.
Yeah. And I would always bring in compassion with everyone,
Yeah.
not to judge us for how we coped up. This is the only way that we know how back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
it's, yeah.
the thing is, I mean, like, when I was in survival mode, I did things in survival mode I wouldn't do normally, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
did have to
Mm-hmm.
spend time forgiving myself for my behavior then.
Yeah.
And I still sometimes I think about things, I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't believe I did
Yeah.
that. And and then I'm like, okay, it's okay. You were in survival mode.
Yeah.
And, rather than being judgmental, I try to be more curious,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
compassionate and
Mm-hmm.
understand. And it's interesting because, when we're talking about it's interesting that it is an autoimmune disease that people usually end up getting from
Mm-hmm.
unresolved trauma.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because when you're in survival mode, your adrenal glands are going all the time because you're in
Yeah.
fight, fight, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
freeze or whatever. You're in one of those. So
Mm-hmm.
your body is jacked up. And
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, I was always jacked up, and it didn't take much if something happened for me to hit the ceiling, right? So imagine if you are always in that place and your body always thinks it's in fight or flight or freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the adrenal glands are just going. It makes sense that you would end up getting an autoimmune disease. And it
Yeah.
makes sense that once you start calming your body down and you get it regulated and you bring it down, that the autoimmune disease can go away.
Yes. Yes. I still remember this when I was diagnosed. Okay, I'm going to challenge my body. I'm going to rest because I don't know what rest means.
Oh,
So I was sitting down for 5 minutes. You know what I did? I started cleaning.
yep.
I started cleaning. I can't sit still. It was so hard. And then I remember when I found a book, The Power of Now, I started practicing meditation. There was a cue there, pause. And then when I paused, I would shut down. I would sleep. I was like, am I doing this right? I'm
Your
like, what's
body's trying
happening?
to figure it out.
So basically, my body's telling me you have to shut down.
Ah.
You have to calm down.
Mhm.
It's like I've been like running all of this thoughts, negative minds, all of that consistently. That the meditation's potent medicine was for me to shut down and not
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
until I start, okay, I want more. I want to understand more. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. Now I meditate for like an hour. Sometimes I want more because I feel so good.
Yeah.
And when I feel good, everything follows through.
Right.
And it's like I would compare myself back then. Rest is a taboo. I
Yeah.
can't really. I have to clean or either I have to do my to-do list. And if I didn't check off my to-do list, I would like go insanely
Yep.
anxious.
Mhm.
Now it's like, okay, I check off two lists. Amazing. I'm so proud of you. So it's like
Yeah.
focused on the quality attention. And my nervous system right now is just so at ease. Let's say there's crisis. Instead of me like going on an automatic response of or reaction of fight or flight mode,
Yeah.
now it's coming from a place of neutrality. Okay, so this is neutral, right? If you think about it, it's just a matter of how do we respond with our body? How's your body acclimating to this kind of crisis?
Yeah.
It's a crisis, 100%, but it's how we receive it energetically and how we perceive it through the lens of our belief system. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing it as a neutral state, and then I get to choose and rationalize it based on my intuitive sense of self. So I get to choose differently, and I no longer feel like, oh, I'm coming from a place of lack. No,
Mm-hmm.
I have to come from a place of love. And if
Right.
I'm not, I'm going to recalibrate and meditate and reattune myself again. And then that's the moment when I'm in a neutral state. That's the space where I wanted to decide. Because your intuition is deployed accurately when you're in a neutral sense of state.
Yes. Yes. And isn't it interesting? Well, I want to say to the audience, there is a transition period because, like what you were saying, when you first started trying
Mm-hmm.
to sit quietly for 5 minutes and you couldn't, to where you are
Yeah.
now, where you can meditate for an hour and even longer. There's that gap
Mm-hmm.
between those
Mm-hmm.
two places, and I'm saying this to listeners because it can be really frustrating because you do exactly what you were saying. Like you decide I'm gonna meditate, and you sit down and you're there 30 seconds and your mind is wandering off.
Mm-hmm.
Completely normal.
Mm-hmm.
And don't, give yourself a lot of grace and
Mm-hmm.
patience because it is a process, and you didn't
Yes.
get there in 2 days. You didn't get to
I didn't
the
get there overnight.
yeah, it took a little while, but you were consistent and you practiced it,
Yes.
and there were good days and there were rough days.
Yes, yes. I also want to invite everyone to see this instead of seeing it as an obligation, see it as a devotion to your alignment. And when you sit still in 5 minutes and you think, oh my God, I'm thinking so many things, that's it. You're becoming aware of your thoughts. It's
There you go.
working.
Right.
And really also understanding, like you said, right? There's going to be ebbs and flow of the practice. That's
Right.
why it's practice. It's not meant to be perfect. It's
No.
meant to be practice until you find what is working for you. What is that sweet spot for you? Before I thought it was 15 minutes. Now it's like 1 hour for me.
Right.
That's the sweet spot. So it's really finding what is working for you. There's no right or wrong in this journey, right? It's
Yes.
just a matter of what is really working for you that you
Mm-hmm.
can stick with.
Right.
That's what I did, with all of these modalities, right, that I could share with people, practices that you have. You get to choose just like in a menu, right? You get to choose which one, try it out, and if this one works best for you, you feel the maximum amount of vitality or the emotional release or the emotional alignment, then stick with it. Be devoted with it until it becomes like you are brushing your teeth every day.
I am so glad you said that because that's so true that there are different modalities out there. And, when you're in your beginning of your healing journey, or maybe you haven't even started yet, it's so easy to go out there and see what everybody else is doing and feel like, well, what they're doing, I have to do just like them. And it should work for me because it worked for them. And that's not true. There are different modalities and different ways that work for you, and they're not right or wrong. And that's the number one reason why I bring this podcast, is to get these out there for people to try.
Yeah.
There's not just one way, and my
Yes.
healing hasn't been done by just one modality. It's been
Yes.
layers of stuff, and some of it's been me by myself, and just sometimes it's been me
Yes.
and God. And so there's
Yes.
different modalities, and so I love that you find your little mix that works for you, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not right or wrong. I'm so glad you
Mm-hmm.
said that.
Yeah, because I always say this that one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
So if you come to a space of everything is interconnected, everything is in one with each other, all of these practices could give you like 1% effect on your journey. And if this, let's say, meditation for me was a big catalyst and it opened me to different perspective, that allowed me to connect with different modalities itself.
Yes.
So play with it, and you see people, oh, you should do this because it's working for them.
Right.
So say always come from a
There
curiosity,
you go.
curiosity mind where, okay, let me try it out. It seems like it's working well for other people. And then what do you have to lose? These things are actually all serving your highest good.
Mm-hmm.
And if you come with the intention to, I want to serve myself, I want to devote myself with love, it will most likely manifest
It
into
will.
your body.
It will.
Yes, it will. But I also want to bring into the awareness, because people, when they think they're going through a journey, they're fixing something inside them. I want you to know that you are whole and complete already. That's what I thought when I was starting. I thought I was fixing myself. And I
Mm.
realized, no, I just need to remember the power inside me that I've been denying myself,
Mm-hmm.
in denial, right? That's why we have one accept, in denial, that it's in there. It just needed to be lighted, just needed to be open, just needed to really connect.
Yeah.
So I would see this holistic modalities, trans modalities, as a catalyst to open you up with that part of you that you have been most likely feel like bypassing or avoiding, thinking that
Mm-hmm.
it's painful to tap in. So, yeah, you're not fixing yourself, but you are whole and complete. You're just remembering and trying it out and get curious which one is going to serve you
It's
most.
like you're bringing yourself back to life, right?
Yes.
Because so many
Hmm.
things get shut down when you're young, and
Yeah.
you may not be who you were originally. You're probably going to be even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, yeah. It you There's this book called Red Goddess. And I want to bring into the context of her 7 layers. So she went to the gates of hell. She went out to the gates of hell through stripping off her 7 layers. She stripped off her earrings. She stripped off her magic. She stripped off her crown. She stripped off her ego. She stripped off her clothes. She stripped off her identity. So every layer through that 7 layers, until she finally came out as just woman, that made her open to different possibilities outside the House of Gate.
Right.
That's where, sorry, the background noise, but that's in itself is an opportunity for her to create differently from where she
Mm-hmm.
came from. So I would bring in everyone here as you strip off those layers, right? And you try to connect to yourself deeper. Who knows what you'll discover?
Seriously, seriously, I have been
Yeah.
on a journey since 2016 of finding me, of learning about me, because my voice was so shut down, and I was so proud of being a chameleon, because I would, oh, okay, I'm going to be the way she wants, I think that she wants me to be, and then I'd go to this person, I'm going
Mm,
to be the person I think this person wants me to be, because I was a people pleaser. I was trying to get accepted,
mm,
right? And it's exhausting, and I completely lost who I was. And
mm,
so I've been on the journey of discovering the things that I like and that I appreciate and that are important to
mm.
me, and I don't need anybody else's approval,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
that's what I always did too. So it'd be like, well, I'm going to try this out if you think it's okay. Do you think it's okay for me to try? Oh, you think it's okay, so I can go do it now. And it wasn't that obvious that I was doing that, but that's what was going on in my head. I was constantly looking for that, what would get me accepted into this person's world. And
Mm,
so I literally I remember laying on my bed and crying,
mm,
and my now husband came over, and he's like, what's going on? And I told him, and he's like, well, let's find her, let's discover her. And we've been on that journey ever since.
mm,
And I have found out a lot of things about myself that's really interesting that I didn't know before. and
mm,
and also I have um exposed lies that I believe that aren't true.
mhm,
And one of
mhm,
the lies, and I used to say this out loud, I'm so stupid. I really, really honestly believed that I was stupid
mm.
in so many ways. It's really interesting. But you need to find out who you are and what you like, and not have anybody else's input on it.
Right, right,
Be
right.
curious. This has been so good. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. And you really, and thank you for helping me with the EFT and understanding that more. And
Yes.
here we did a little coaching session, and I wasn't even expecting that. How much do I owe
It just
you?
came out naturally for me. I'm so grateful that you're open.
Yeah, I put it out there on my podcast, and it's funny because for so many years I lived in silence and secret, because I had so much shame. And it's so funny because I share stuff on here that I'm like, oh my God, I've never shared this story with anybody, and I'm putting it out there on the air for anybody to hear. But if somebody can, connect and identify and resonate with it, and that it's going to maybe help them on begin their healing journey or go further, I'll do it.
You're so authentic, and I think that's very magnetic too for people to even hearing you to share that. It's like a ripple effect for everyone
Good.
to do the same. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank
Well,
you for having me.
thank you. So tell the listeners how they could reach out to you if they wanted to contact you.
Yes, so if you are interested in working with me one on one, I am actually opening doors again to my roster. And you can book your connection call. That's free for 30 minutes for us to just connect, get to know each other. What is it that part of you that you wanted to break through? And I can map things out for you. That's very open right now. It's at I would send it to Lisa, like all of this links. And
Yes.
also, I am in the process of launching this program by September, which I called Core Essence. So it's basically a membership program where I invite in multiple holistic practitioners and other experts to help you tap in, heal your energy centers from mind, body, and spirit. And all of the things that I talk about here, it's going to be inside that program where you have access for life. Yes, and you have library of Reiki infused meditation, music that would help you move through your energy. So it's all in one place. And I've been
Nice.
working on this for 2.5 years. So I'm really excited
I
to
bet.
share that with everyone. And I just recently hosted my retreat in Mount Shasta, which is the root chakra of the earth. Yes, and I'm announcing soon the next one, which is happening on July next year. So that's something that I would invite everybody to tune in. So subscribe on my email list. That would be really great. What else? And I think that's it. So if anyone's interested, like I'm so open to connection call. I love connecting with
I
souls.
know, right? I could spend hours on connection calls. I totally agree. Well, we'll have all your links. We'll have them, and we'll have them available for everybody so they can
Thank you so
reach out to you.
much.
And I've got one last question. What would you like to leave our listeners with?
Mm. I would invite everybody to really, what is that part of you in your mind, body, and spirit that you haven't gone an inch deeper emotionally? What is that part of you that you feel like it's so challenging to go an inch deeper? And if you find that, get curious with it, tap into it. That's where your North Star is. That's where all the wisdom that has been waiting idly, for you to discover, for you to connect, for you to light up. So go an inch deeper, play a little bit an inch deeper, tap in a little bit inch deeper, feel your emotions a little bit an inch deeper. That's where I'm going to leave everyone to be.
That's perfect. That's perfect. You are so right. Just go a little bit deeper. Don't be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Be curious. Oh, I love that. That
Yeah.
was perfect. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank you
much.
so much, Lisa. So, so grateful to be here.
Yeah, it's been great, and I think we covered a lot, and I think our listeners are really going to be touched by it.
Yeah.